So, namaste. Welcome to Satsang this evening, or this morning, or this afternoon, whatever time it is where you are. Let's just take a moment to celebrate the fact that we're all here together for the most important human endeavor that we could ever be gathered for, which is the realization and deep-seated, heart-centered understanding of what we really are in reality. In reality, we are not a separate being, not separate from each other, not separate from the world, not separate from the self, from God, from the divine. And Satsang is for the direct understanding and deeper than a mental understanding, but an experiential, actual lived realization, living as the one being, the divine self, in which there is no suffering possible. And that may seem, as it did to me, that may seem to you to be something unreachable or only achievable after a lot of work or a struggle. And I certainly experienced that myself. So as a result, I'm always looking for any kind of shortcut, any kind of backdoor, any cheat sheet that we can find to awakening. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Was the one of the most direct ways, perhaps after self-inquiry, the most direct way is a very powerful kind of form of meditation to bring us to an experiential understanding of what we really are. And that is to focus on what is actually and already true about us. The only thing that we can know for certain about ourselves is that we are, that we exist. So the fact that you're hearing these words right now and seeing this image is evidence that you are watching through your eyes and listening through your ears and your body. Something that we call you is able to take in the sensory feed through your senses and translate it into meaning. And that something is not limited to a body. In fact, it doesn't need a human body at all. It has one, but it doesn't need it. The real self is beyond and before and in between and during and after this human incarnation too. So why do we get so caught up then in the illusion that we are someone, that we're doing, that we're thinking, all of that? If you were to look at, if you could take from tomorrow morning when you wake up to the last thought you had before you go to sleep tomorrow night or today or any day, if you look at the content of those thoughts, they would all be, most of them at least, 99.9% would be your mind trying to figure out what to do or not do. Your mind thinking about how it's thinking or not thinking. And it's all based on this idea that you are the doer, you are doing something, that right now you're doing something to move towards awakening. Or perhaps your mind's saying that you're not doing the right thing to move towards awakening, or whatever it's saying. And this idea for me that I was in charge of this spiritual progress and process and awakening as a separate being was perhaps the only thing that stopped realization from happening sooner. So the idea that I'm a someone on a pathway trying to get to awakening actually, ironically, slowed down the realization that I am already that self, that infinite being. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Can you Imagine with me for a second that you absolutely knew from like the core and center of your being that you're doing nothing at all right now. If you were able to live from the realization that you're just simply observing, watching, you're just here, you're just being, and that anything that your mind and your body is doing is just simply running on autopilot, that you're not responsible for what thoughts are happening in your mind. And you're also not responsible for stopping that thought stream either. There is nothing you can do to move away from thoughts, to quieten the mind, all of that. Very frustrating idea to the mind, but very freeing for you, the infinite being. There is nothing you can do to quieten your mind. And there is nothing that you need to do to quieten your mind. Because you are that infinite space of being in which your mind is happening. Something is thinking. Something is generating thoughts. Is it you? Is mind even talking to you, actually? These are the fundamental assumptions that most human beings never question. My mind is talking to me is just a given, isn't it? We all take that for absolute truth. And our mind says, you're not good enough. Why do we automatically feel it's talking to me? Why do I have to listen to that? Why can't I step away from that? And when my mind says something positive, I also could listen to that and feel really puffed up and inflated and feel quite good about myself for once, until it says something negative, and then I'm deflated, detracted, constricted again. So if we momentarily don't count our body and mind as a reference point for what we know about ourselves, because they are going to go. Eventually, our mind, our emotions, our body will be gone. What do we know then about ourselves, really? If you don't answer me with thoughts, experiences that happen through a body, with a body, or emotions, what can you say about yourself, actually? If you were to tell me how old you are, where you were born, what you like to eat, what you don't like to eat, what you do for a living, if you were to tell me any of that stuff, what TV programs you like to watch, all of that, it would all be information about your mind and your body. What can you tell me then about you? Just for a moment, putting yourself in a position of, if you had no body, if it had gone, if you had no mind, it had gone. Or it's still here, but you're not referencing it. It's not actually talking to you. It's talking in you, your mind. What do you know then about yourself? What remains that is you? And for me, when I asked this question, it was a real game changer. It was, it took everything. It took away, when I really asked this question of myself, what do I actually know? Without my mind and body as reference. Because they're not original to me and they're going to go. What do I actually know about myself? There was just this sense of being, this sense of existence. I am here. When I first asked this question, I didn't know what I was actually. Something that I call me or I is here. And I cannot say anything else about it than that it exists, that I exist. Anything that came after that, I am English, I am a woman, I am 47 years old. I like science fiction. I don't like sprouts, Brussels sprouts. All of those are of my body and mind. I've got nothing against Brussels sprouts, by the way. Just don't really like them. And without all of that, there is really nothing else I can tell you except that I'm here. And is that a terrible thing? Just feeling that out now within your own being. If you took away all of your reference points, you're not thinking, you're not deciding, you're not choosing, you're not doing, you're not evolving, you're not awakening. You are that awakened being, self, infinite consciousness in which there's a sense of a journey unfolding in the body and the mind, a sense of change and time and evolution. What do you actually have left when all of that is stripped away? What's going to be here after your body has gone? And is that a horrible feeling of loss? Is it scary? Or is it simply unfamiliar to not be able to define yourself at all? What if the only thing that you had to fall back on was this sense that I am? Where then are our problems? Where are our spiritual journey and progress and awakening even? Whereas our karmic patterns then, if all I know for certain is that I exist, I am is the only truth there is, actually. Everything else is coming from the world of phenomena and form, and there is nothing wrong with that, of course. But everything else is impermanent, transient. And it cannot therefore be used as a definition of what's going on for us, for this infinite being. So what is going on for you then? And my mind was had a lot of things to say about this, because it was it seemed like an avoidance of my issues that I had at the time. I thought I had. It seemed like resistance, spiritual bypassing. If I just kind of step away from identifying with all these things that are going on and admit the truth that I am, who's going to pay the bills next month, and who's going to push towards awakening, and who's going to deal with karmic patterns, and who's going to release this fear? And and maybe there's some really pressing issue for you right now, something going on in your body, something going on in your mind, in your emotions, in your relationships, in your career, in your finances, something going on in your awakening too, or not going on despite your best efforts. Could that simply be that we're trying to do something that we can't do? We're trying to let go of karmic patterns to move beyond them. We're trying to move towards awakening when we already are it. Just taking a moment to think of your most recent challenge and issue. Does it still stand if all you know about yourself is that you are, you exist? Does it still have any ground to stand on then? And our mind doesn't want to really admit this, that we're not doing, we're not thinking. That's just happening spontaneously inside us. Because our mind and its thinkingness is auto-generated by this idea that I'm doing, I'm the doer. I got myself confused with my body, and I mistakenly identified that everything that the body's doing, I'm doing. So I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm thinking. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm asleep. I am enlightened, I am unenlightened, I'm worthy, I am unworthy. I'm changing, I'm evolving, all of it. But if you're willing to step into the experience of truth with me right now, just see what it feels like for a moment with me to just not know anything else about yourself than this. To forget, wait, what country your body was born in, what year it was born, everything. Just the only thing you know about yourself is that you are. I am. Just the sense, I am. And we can just sit with this for a few moments. We can call it meditation if you like. Let's just sit here with this. Just the sense I am. Where there is nowhere else for you to go and nothing for you to do. You're just here. Where there's no question of reaching awakening or not. There's no ignorance or liberation here. There is just you, already free. And where the mind thinks it's free or thinks it's caught, it's got nothing to do with you at all. Just dropping this idea that you are the thinker or the doer. You're simply here, just being here, just existing. Let go for a moment of the thoughts that that's boring, that that's not getting you anywhere. Could this be what we've been looking for? Just the sense, I am. The only thing you know for certain, I am. I'm here. No attempt at all to define what you are, just that you are. Not that you need to stay here or remember this, just the purest of sensation of knowing I am. What does that feel like when you experience it? And every time your mind tries to put something on the end of that sentence, I am, and I need, I want, I should, I shouldn't. Just letting that go as soon as you realize, coming back to this simple sentence, I am. I am existence itself. I'm not someone existing. I am existence. Dropping all of your burdens right now here, just for a while. Experiencing the natural state. And it's not that we don't care about those issues and challenges. It's just that we're going to work with them from what's actually real and true. I am is the highest truth. I am is reality. And if you picked up some idea of wanting to stay here like this, discarding that because it's outside of I am. You don't have to be worthy of this. You're already worthy. You're here already. Nothing to prove to anyone, nothing to prove to yourself. Simply that you are. I exist. I is existence. Coming back to I am. Only I am. All else is fiction for you. Only remembering the sense I am. Just the sense of existence. I don't know what I exist as. I just exist. Free already. Enlightened of the idea that I'm doing, that I'm thinking. Resting in this truth, I am. What if there was nothing else to do than this? To simply come back to this. Before the body is, you are. After the body's gone, you still are. And nobody can find you or see you, but you are here. I am is what you are. Just coming back to I am, the only thing you know, the only thing there is to know. Where mind and body and emotions and experience is all happening inside you. Mind gets caught and mind feels free, and you simply are. Just resting here. Just the sense I am. And we don't know anything here. There's nothing to know here. There's nothing to think about here. Free of a journey, free of becoming. Just an unfolding happening inside you, and you're just here. There is no chooser, no thinker, no doer, no decider. There is no one awakening. There's just awakening already here. So let's see if we can rest as this I am as we move into the questions. We don't have to pick up this idea again that we're the thinker, the chooser, the doer. We can be that space, that I am, that is simply watching. Simply watching your body do or say whatever it does or says, even now. So, hope you enjoyed a taste of your natural state, where we don't know anything at all, and where there isn't anything to know, actually. There's just freedom. There isn't anything to remember there or forget. So I'm going to read a question that's been sent in. And if you'd like to ask something here live on the session, if you want to raise your hand, we'll take up to 5 altogether. And this one here will be 6. So this says, hi Helen, does thought have any bearing at all on reality? I suppose I'm asking, does action appear exactly as it's going to appear anyway? Or is action a consequence of the thought stream? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Lots of love and gratitude. So does thought have any bearing at all on reality? Does action appear exactly as it's going to appear, or is it a consequence of thought stream? So this is one of the major reasons why we are afraid to move beyond thought, because we believe, as I used to, that my thoughts are somehow creating my actions, that without my thoughts, there'll be no action to happen. There'll be no way for it to happen. And that's simply not true. You could think that you could kind of perhaps frame it that action and thought are two sides of one coin. So, but it is possible for the action to happen without a thought. From an empty mind, in quiet place of reality, the body just moves in that stillness and actually achieves a much higher state of action and speech and all of that than when thought is getting in the way. So thought doesn't cause action. It does have some bearing on reality, in that you could say the pure light of our being shines through us and as this manifested world. And when there's thoughts in the way of that, it does diminish our experience, and we're believing those thoughts at least. But it doesn't have any, action isn't a consequence of the thought stream, as you've asked here. It's really more that the action was going to show up anyway, as you're saying here. And it's really only whether we're diminishing that action by the frequency of the thought that we're forcing it through. So a loving, kind action is about to happen, and then this thought says, I'm not good enough, and that diminishes the experience that we're able to have and the action that we're able to take and the way that we're able to feel as well. So thought doesn't cause anything, and that's why as an awakened being you can live with an empty head, in fact live even better than perhaps with a full mind. And it's perhaps the reason that the mind is so noisy and polluted with all of these thoughts, because of this idea that thoughts are actually what's making our body move. And without those, perhaps we wouldn't be able to do that. We wouldn't be able to function and all of that. And it's really not true. The body moves by itself, as it always has. And mind thinks it's making that happen. Separate sense of self thinks it's making that happen, but it's not so. So I hope that helps. Good question. We'll go to Christine when you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
That was very timely for me. And on the question that you just replied to, I've both been having some glimpses of being aware, I guess. And I think, as I said on another one, kind of realizing that was already there.
Mm.
And then having quite a big week in my life this week, preparing for an event, and feeling that getting really dropping into the ego of rush, and I have to push myself to do all this work in time. And initially feeling really resistant at the beginning of the week, and then doing more of that question. Is it true I'm not good enough? And I think something did lift a bit, and then I drop into the rush, and and then I have times when I hear myself say something, think a thought, and I think, that's not even true, that's just not even true. The thought of one of those classic ego thoughts about having to push myself, having to rush, having to and while we were sitting in the meditation, I could feel that desperately strong feeling of needing to jump up and move and do something.
I can't just sit here. I'm not getting anything done while I just sit here, right?
Yeah, and it was so powerful. It was a real challenge to keep trying to drop down
energy.
into the question.
It's just do, isn't it? Just do. I've got to do something, because that belief is just so strong that I'm responsible for what my body's doing and or not doing. And if I'm not on top of that, it's going to fall apart or something like that.
Yes. And my body's totally bought, the tension and the the need to physically move. And so
and that's one of the benefits of meditation is you actually get to see just how restless we are with that idea in place. When you try to just be, immediately there's this yes but, and it's very loud, isn't it? Can't just do nothing.
Very loud.
Some kind of very strong thing came up for me.
Yeah, so I was able to drop down, definitely feel, settled, and then it would come up again and settle again.
But there's something just watching that, isn't it? Just awareness of that. There's just awareness of it, of this do, and then, oh no, wait, I can sit back in the self, and then do, and then, oh no, wait. That's just going on, isn't it? And something's just watching that silently.
Yes.
That remains unchanged, constant.
Yes. And when I'm in that awareness, it almost seems like all the ego stuff is just pebbles on the beach or something, there's no specific, meaning to any of it's just there,
It's just thoughts going on, isn't it?
Yeah. And most of them aren't even true. But yeah.
How many of them still have any significance if all you know is that you are? How many of those thoughts have any significance anymore from there?
So I'd have to say none of them. Even though it seems like if I have a real caught in ego thought, and then I have a thought that's not true, but even that's not.
You're just watching this ping pong match that the mind is doing.
Yeah.
And so all we need to do then, pun not intended, is to be sure that we're watching the ping pong match, that we're not actually involved in that. That I'm always looking as the awareness, as the I am. That I really can't find anyone here going back and forth between this caught, constricted egoic self and the open state of reality. That there is just me, this open state of reality, and this bundle of thoughts having this ping pong match in the middle of my being.
Ping pong match. I love it. So just accessing that transparency that
every time I come back here, there's nothing for me to do or fix. Every time I'm resting as this, I don't even think I need to do anything with the ping pong. It's just going on. Doesn't affect me anyway. Even when mind says, I'm caught, I'll never be free, it is nonetheless just a thought in the mind.
That's so relaxing.
And the only issue is where I think I'm looking from mind or from the awareness. Just need to be sure of that.
Yes, I watched that satsang again the other day. Am I looking from or at the self?
Mm.
And I hadn't even realized when I started watching it that I'd asked a question on that one. And at the time, I didn't really deeply understand that question. But when I listened to it again, I had a totally different experience.
Mm.
And I really, it really brought me clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just going to get clearer and clearer as you keep looking. I'm already free. I'm already looking from the self, from the awareness, from the I am. I can't be looking from anywhere else ever, because there is no separate being. And that's just going to get clearer and clearer. And with that comes a deep stillness, a richness of suchness, isness. Everything just is. And then that mind tends to quieten down on its own then. But not because you've done anything about it. It's just not really relevant what it's saying anymore, is it, from there?
Because getting involved in that is just more doing.
Or the thought that you could get involved in that. It's just a thought. The awareness is the awareness and has always been. The I amness just is. Can't get involved in anything. It just is. We believe this idea. I'm getting stuck back in the mind again. I'm caught again. Now I have to free myself again. And around it goes one more time.
That's the duality. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, very well. Good conversation. Good to talk to you.
Thank you. You too.
Don, when you're ready.
Enjoyed the meditation. I listen to a lot of your meditations when I sleep, and I'll wake up and listen to another one, and then I'll go back to sleep. And today I was looking. There were 3 deer in my backyard this morning, and they're not raking the leaves, so I'm not sure who's going to do that.
It will get done, right?
Yes. And I've done my share. They haven't done any of theirs, but they seem to like it better without the leaves raked. And I remember listening to Adyashanti talk about how, some of his neighbors were starting to slack off or something to that effect, like him in his yard. And he said, it's probably healthier and better, fewer herbicides, but, the neighborhood is, and I was thinking about that, how there's really not essential that I do it. My gutters may fall off if I don't get up there and do something about it. But, the yard, and, I'm not putting any herbicide down, and I'm not doing anything, and the deer come along, and I'm like, that's okay. And, but I was sort of wondering, as the awakening, that seems to be really pressing on my, are there any, like, when you were going through your process, were there any like scriptures or readings that you recommend, to supplement that? I listened to a lot of your stuff, and I listened to a couple people from Sand that I used to listen to, and I've gone, is there anything you recommend reading that are sort of must read in that work while I'm waiting on the deer to rake the leaves?
I would just suggest whatever pulls you. I mean, for me, there was I just about read everything I could get my hands on, listened to everything, watched everything I could possibly absorb. And it was all relevant really at different stages and different times. From the oldest scriptures I could get my hands on to the most contemporary teachers of today. And there was, I was able to allow myself to be guided by what felt exciting and inspiring for me to listen to or to read. So whatever pulls you, whatever calls to your heart is going to be useful. Really, all non-duality teachers are saying the same thing anyway, just saying it different ways, aren't they? So sometimes you might just want to hear it one certain way or a different way. So anything that resonates and anything that's this kind of, I don't want to say the word level of truth because there isn't a level, but this kind of direct teaching would be useful, whatever that is, whether it's as old as the Upanishads or something that's been written last year or today. It's highly relevant, isn't it?
Is the Awakening Together group, is that a pretty good resource that you've?
I think so. Yeah. Some very beautiful beings.
Excuse me?
And there's some very beautiful beings there.
Yeah. I enjoyed that weekend that you guys did that 2 or 3 day thing. So anyhow, I was just like, that was sort of pressing and but getting
maybe
the yard work.
Take a whole stack of books out and ask the deer which one you should read. See what they say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will do that. But it's nice. It feels kind of like Virginia again around here. And I'm like, that's good. This is the pandemic changed the dynamic of my backyard. The deer came for the first time. So
perfect. Yeah. Enjoy them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to talk to you. Catalina.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, good. I am wondering about if we are the self, we have the ability to create, I guess, like manifestation, some kind of. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, we are, as the infinite being, all of this is your creation. And you're constantly sculpting and changing that. The universe is your manifestation. You're constantly, but on a individual level, there can be a deepening of your ability, for want of a better word, to make whatever you want show up. The freer that your consciousness is of thoughts and the more distance you've got between your mind and yourself. But ironically then, quite often you find that there's not much that you want to create. You're more enjoying what's going to show up anyway. It's like if I said, okay, you write me the best movie script you could ever write, the most exciting, like action-packed, maybe throw in some romance, some scary moments, some psychological thriller, all of that kind of stuff, everything that you could ever want in a movie, put it in the script. And you do that and you say, here you are, this is and I read it and go, wow, that's pretty amazing. I'd like to watch that. And then you sit down with Steven Spielberg and all the great directors, and you all create this thing together that neither any one of you could create this script on your own. There's this kind of genius thing that happens that's way above any individual mind, and it's just off the charts amazing, just the best movie that you could ever watch. And every minute of that movie, it's a never-ending movie, and every minute of that movie is better than the previous minute. And the audience is just like, oh, they can't even leave their seats because they're just so driven. So would you like to watch the movie that you wrote, or would you like to watch this one that you've all created together? and that's just a metaphor, of course, but the movie of manifestation in reality is just so magnificent compared to what the mind could create, what we can imagine in thoughts. There's nothing wrong with that as well. And of course, you might have some fun doing that once you realize you've got the power to have happen what you want. Of course, you want to play with that for a while when you're free of limitations. But really, all of that is going to pass anyway, isn't it? So whatever you create is going to fall away eventually. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But what we really want is the feeling, the inner state of freedom. That's what we want more than anything. We all go through that phase, you know, I want to have more of this and less of that, and I want to rearrange my outer world.
It's just like I actually felt like you say it now, and that once I am feeling free, whole, complete, I don't need anything.
Yeah. You're just sitting there with your feet up and your popcorn watching this amazing movie, and you're just like, wow. Yes. Every day it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know I could be like this. And then the next day it's even better. So you're just kind of sitting there and enjoying it.
Okay. So I asked just because someone just this week told me like you have this power, and I always have had a like rejection to manifestation. So maybe I thought maybe is resistance to manifestation, you know, like I felt like I don't know, I don't need anything, so I can just watch the movie that is evolving, that is flowing in this moment, that every time is getting better, as you said. But then I have the question, like maybe I have a power that I am not using because there is just resistance to use it. That's why I am doing the question.
I think it can feel like resistance, but sometimes actually it's just that the effortless being that we are is creating as the self is just spontaneous and effortless. And manifestation is always arising out of you, the infinite self. And you might have these desires, these things that you want, but they're, I think, was it Einstein that said imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions? And just like any preview or trailer for a movie, the actual thing is always way better, isn't it? You watch the trailer, the preview, you go, whoa, that's great. I want that. I want to see that. Then the actual thing is just so much better, usually, at least in terms of movies. But and here you have these dreams and desires that you want to achieve, and that's great. But as the self, as the infinite being, you don't have to do anything to make that happen. That's just what's already unfolding. Your desire, your feeling is a preview of what's already trying to come into manifestation. So it feels it's a different way of, it's not like, okay, now I have this desire, I've got to go do something to create it. I'm going to really manifest this, make it happen. There's kind of a lot of striving and efforting, and it doesn't get you anywhere anyway, most times.
So in that sense, it's just like the desire.
Yeah.
And that's all. Okay.
Yeah. Just like we all here because we wanted awakening, our mind would like to say, well, I made it happen, but it was just happening anyway, and our desire was just evidence of that, right? Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to talk to you. Last but not least is Steph. Hi.
Hi, Helen.
How are you doing?
I'm having a hard moment, but I have been able to be the space at times. It feels like when I am the space, it is because I remembered the space.
Yeah.
And remembered that I can just be the space. Sometimes it's difficult to trust it. I had a very intense Thanksgiving weekend, really, 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 really lovely. And during it, I visited my son, and he was in really, really difficult shape. And you know, I'm sorry to like beat the same drum every time I talk to the Sangha, but that's
Please
where I'm
don't,
at.
please don't apologize for that, because it's what's going on for you, isn't it? It's what's
Yeah.
difficult for you, what's challenging for you, and also where it's challenging most for you to apply what you're understanding from satsang. So, you know, you don't have to apologize for that. We all have our sticky places where it's harder. It seems harder to apply it, right? To remember.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Helena, I can sometimes, like today, this pain, it feels like kind of claws gripping my heart and my gut. Otherwise, I'm really not in bad shape. I mean, I'm coping well. Sometimes I'm very much aware that I've chosen this feeling, that there is a part of me that's choosing it, and that really doesn't trust letting it go.
Yeah.
And that really doesn't trust letting my son's life be what it is.
Yeah.
And I wanted to I wanted to just sort of ask you about, it feels like part of that pain is much more ancient than this mess with my son. It feels, and it's been, you know, as I have been practicing today, okay, let's remember the space. And today, you know, there's tons of snow outside, and I was shoveling, and it was a lot of work, but it's also extremely beautiful, sparkling. And, you know, as I was, it's like the sparkles in the snow were helping me to remember the space.
Yeah.
And being there, but I'm feeling a tremendous amount of resistance, a real fight going on inside of me. And so I'm asking, I guess, just doing a review session with you, that I need to be patient with that and not fight the part of me that's fighting it, because I think I'm feeling really intense resistance. Sometimes it's really scary to let go of my worry, to let go of that really deep feeling.
Well, you know, sometimes the best thing is there's going to be times where you have resistance, where there's pain emotionally, sometimes physically, whatever's going on. And perhaps one of the most painful things of all is this idea that you've got to get rid of that, or you've got to choose. Am I the part that's resisting, or the part that's not resisting? Which one of those am I? Am I the space, or am I this kind of contracted ball of resistance? And what if that's not true, that you just don't have to choose? These are two ways that you can show up. I can show up as this empty, infinite space of consciousness that's just full of peace and silence. And I can also show up as this very resistant sense of someone who really just doesn't trust life, and really doesn't want to actually trust life, if we're really kind of honest about the feeling. And I know that too. I've been there. And a lot of the suffering for me was this idea that I had to somehow get rid of that one that doesn't trust. and somehow stay only as this space of being. But if we look at the space of being, it's not choosing either, is it? The I amness, as we're calling it tonight, it isn't trying to get rid of anything. It doesn't have to pick a side. It's not dividing itself into this is me and this is not me. That's only the mind that's doing that. And as you said, if I resist this resistance, it's not going to help, is it? But also then, okay, so I might not be resisting it so much, but I might still be thinking that I have to get it to go away.
Yeah. I am having trouble with that, because sometimes it feels so dark and so painful that, I want to like go find a pill to pop to just make it go away. And, I'm not going to do that because I know better. It really has helped me to hear you say that you had similar resistance and difficulty in trusting the space.
And that part of me never trusted. If I could listen to my mind now, it would still tell me not to trust.
Really?
Yeah. Never resolved that. I just stopped trying to change its mind.
Boy, that's hard for me to wrap my brain around that, but
it's okay. Guess... Yeah, it'll just take a little while, because when we're trying to change our thoughts, there's something that's inherently distrustful of life, and that is because of our previous experiences. But those previous experiences were because we thought we were a separate being and not actually what we really are, this infinite being. And I came to realize that my mind sees things a certain way based on what it thinks is true. And I cannot get my mind or expect my mind to see it how the infinite being sees it. And actually, after a while, I stopped trying.
Okay.
And because I wasn't pushing so hard against it, it began to soften on its own. And I never managed to convince it, ever.
I think I really need to...
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just was... Okay. I think I really need to pay attention to that, because that...
What if there's nothing you can do about that part of you that doesn't trust life? And nothing that you have to do?
That's very scary.
Well, let's go a little deeper into that right now if you want to.
Okay.
Is it really, and I know it seems that way, but is that really, does it mean, if you can't do anything about that part of you, does that mean you're going to be stuck with it forever? Well, let's examine that, because maybe that's what the fear is about. I'm just going to be here like this, feeling like this forever. If I can't do something to resolve it, this experience I'm having right now is going to be the rest of my life, and nobody, of course, can face that. So if I just accept as much as I can in this moment that I can't change my mind and how it sees the world, just letting that in a little bit closer right now. What if I can't do anything about it? As the self, as the infinite being, do I need to do anything about it? Can I even do something about it? And
I heard that more clearly this time than I've heard that before.
It was the worst news to the seeker in me. I can't do anything about it. It was catastrophic. It was horrible. I didn't want to. But something inside me heard it differently. I can't do anything about it. And then quite soon after that came the thought, I don't need to. Me, the infinite being, the space.
The infinite being.
What does it mean? Is it even affected by this that doesn't trust?
Is it fairly normal in this process to like when I was cooking with my brother in the kitchen on Thanksgiving. My brother's he's a solitary kind of guy. It was tough in a way for him to have people, but I noticed this time he was very comfortable in my presence, and it's like we were just like meshing together, reading each other's cues, being in each other's space.
How
very
beautiful.
It was something that I had not ever experienced with him, and we both felt it. And I really felt very much that anytime any kind of blip came up, I just went, oh, well, but I'm the space. I'm gonna see. And it all seemed differently. It all seemed different. Then when the painful part grabs me, I forget that I ever saw the space. I only remember up here that how come it really feels like
your brother
two different...
is a person out there. This painful part of you is a person in here. And you can treat the person in here with the same loving, allowing acceptance as you would do your brother out there. You just let him, you were comfortable with him, you let him be whoever he was, right? And he was letting you be whoever you were in that moment. That's why it's so beautiful. And you can do that with your own separate sense of self. It's actually never really worked that to try to get rid of it or change it has actually been effective.
No, never has.
The moment you love it, I don't mean like it, the moment you love it and accept it, it begins to disappear. This is just some stuff that's happening inside me, the space of being. And I don't need to do anything about it. I can't do anything, but I can love it into dissolution.
So Helen, the other thing I wanted to ask you is when I make a conscious attempt to love that part of me, I'm wondering if sometimes there's a tendency to make a job out of that and a project, and I get sucked into, okay, now I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna love this painful part of me. And
just to understand, if someone was being mean to you, for example, you might bring something up inside, but some part of you would also want to know why are they being that way? What's got them to this point? And we can kind of do that with what's going on inside. Like, why is my mind thinking? Why doesn't it trust? Not in the mind's energy, like, why can't I trust life? But more from the self.
More like in here.
Why doesn't mind trust? What is that? Why has it got to that point? And I began to see that my mind is caught in this infinite loop of looking at my experience and having certain thoughts that life isn't safe. And then experiencing that thought that life isn't safe, therefore believing it, and it goes around and it's just caught on this infinite loop. And it can't. It's not that it won't break out of that mind, it's it can't. And as I began to really understand that, a lot of my fight and resistance dropped away to it. Like it's stuck. It's just one of those old vinyl records that kept jumping back to the same point no matter what you did. Your favorite record, it just went, mine's just like that. It's just stuck in a groove and it can't move on because it can't see reality. It really believes the experiences we've had have been reality. So it's just kind of seeing the world that certain way, seeing you seeing God a certain way, and it literally can't break out of that because it's a thought machine. It doesn't have the capacity to understand what we're talking about here. So it keeps all of its opinions in a very set way. As you begin to understand why it does that, You feel something start to soften a little bit.
That sounds very true. That the mind, it can't.
It literally,
it can't.
Yeah. For the longest time, I said it won't. And that's why I was so resistant to it. It won't change. And then I realized it can't. It can't change.
Oh, just for 1 second, when you said it won't change, I felt, oh yeah, God, that really pulls you down. Yeah. When you said it can't, then I had like 1 second of just feeling kind of sorry for it, like, oh.
And there's the beginning of compassion. I've been expecting it. It's a 2-year-old and it wants to play with bricks and stack bricks, and I'm trying to teach it algebra and then getting frustrated, calculus, and it can't see the world the way that the self does, because it's looking through a set of beliefs that it thinks are true, and it can't see that they're not. So as you really start to understand why the ego, why the mind, why the separate sense of self is the way it is, naturally compassion starts to come for it, which is just another word for love. At first, it's just a little bit. And then as that compassion deepens, that it literally cannot see what you're seeing or understand the world in the way that you are starting to. Its effectiveness over you and your ability to resist it just falls away. Like if you saw someone in distress, you would just, oh, I'm really sorry, what can I do to help? You wouldn't go up to them and say, you really should be different than you are. That's what we're doing with our mind, isn't it? It's in distress from these ideas that I'm the doer, I'm the thinker. I'm a separate being on a journey to awakening, and it can't see outside of those. It's in its own little box of thinking. It's made of thoughts. That's all it can do is think. You feel some tension just kind of drops then, right? Some kind of, all this energy I've been spending trying to change it. Maybe it'll never say, life is actually safe and fun and free. But it will just be a whisper, life isn't safe, instead of a shout, that creates all this pain inside. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, you won't even know where it is.
Oh. Thanks. I can work with that.
Yeah. You said sometimes I can be the beingness, sometimes I can't. Mm-hmm. This is being the beingness in this moment, isn't it? This is what it is in this moment. Sometimes it's noticing the empty formlessness of myself. Then sometimes it's being this loving compassion. It's what it is to be the beingness is going to be different in each moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Well done.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, so we will leave it there for today. A wonderful place to finish. And thank you for your questions that you sent in and that you've asked here tonight, live today, whatever time it is for you. And I just want to, Steph brought up something just before we finish that I want to just go into very quickly, because certain things that we have on the pathway come up again and again for us. And if I had someone to ask at the time, I would have asked the same question 100,000 times if I could. And that's not an exaggeration. Well, maybe 5,000 times, but I would have had to ask the same question. How do I stop being scared of not having enough money? That would have been my question over and over and over again. And I used to feel really ashamed of that I shouldn't be asking that or needing to ask it. I should have got past it. But, we'll get past that when we get past that. Whatever that is for each one of us is different, isn't it? It could be our finances, it could be our relationships, our awakening itself, our career, anything. And maybe the fact that issue is still there for each one of us is just life asking us, ask this one more time, get one more download of clarity from your real nature. And that issue may go away then when it has nothing else to teach you. And if it's still there, perhaps it just needs to deepen in the seeing in that particular issue. I'm saying that because there'll be people that haven't raised their hand because they feel they can't ask the same question again, or shouldn't, or whatever mind is saying. So there's never the same question twice anyway. You could say the same words, but it will come out a different way, and my answer would be different, and it would be perfect for everyone here on this meeting, live here on this particular session. So, so thank you. Namaste.